So here's my latest update in trying to find another vehicle. So if you missed my previous videos, basically my 2014 Prius died after 230,000 miles. It basically, I think, blew well, the water pump failed. It basically caused the whole thing to kaput. And rather than trying to spend the money to fix it, because they were saying it's going to cost several $1,000s, and I didn't have the time or the willingness to go through all of that. So to make a long story short, with all of that, I ended up selling it, and I ended up finding a vehicle basically for my wife. And because it didn't fit her properly, the seating wasn't comfortable, and she was in pain every time she sat in it, which was a 2014 Honda Pilot. And so after 2 months, I ended up selling that thing. And it was pretty much a wash. I didn't really lose anything on that deal. Maybe just the taxes from transferring the title and stuff. But so now I'm at square one, and I've been searching ever since. So this has been over a month now. And I've been on the Facebook Marketplace trying to find another vehicle. So my main focus was trying to find one for my wife, because she did not like her 2013 Toyota Highlander because it has a cracked screen, which is not really that big of a deal. But and also the paint on the hood, the clear coat it was actually damaged from the car wash. So if any of you out there are taking your cars through a car wash, don't do it. It's not worth it. And I probably could, take it to them and, make a claim on it, but, I don't have the time or energy to even do that. But anyway, the other reason why she didn't like the Honda Pilot is because it didn't have keyless entry, and also keyless start, push button start. And so that was two things that she did not like about the Honda Pilot. And one of my problems with going and finding a new vehicle is that I'm finding out that the older vehicles just don't have that option. Most of them are keys, and they do have the key fob, but you also have a physical key that you have to put in to start the car. So that's been my challenge. So I basically told her, I said, you're going to have to maybe give that up if we can't find a vehicle, and my whole purpose was to try and find a vehicle under $10,000. And $10,000 hopefully is going to be out the door, with taxes and everything included. And one thing I want to tell you, if you're on Facebook Marketplace now as a buyer, you're at a disadvantage because it's a seller's market right now. And if you want really good high quality vehicles, such as the most popular ones are the Toyotas, and especially the Highlanders and 4Runners and all those kind of vehicles, basically anything Toyota. And some of the Hondas rate right up there with it as well. And so usually what's been happening is, so I could not find a vehicle to fit my wife's purposes. So I figured, what, I better change my focus and try to find something for me to replace my work vehicle. And I've been using the Highlander as my work vehicle. And although it has plenty of space and everything, it's not great on gas. And I just feel wore out at the end of the day driving that thing, just driving it all day long. And, you're having to get up and in and out of it. And it's just a heavier vehicle, a bigger vehicle than what I'm used to. So, I'm ready to find another car. And, I thought maybe I would look at the RAV4s or Honda CR-Vs. And I found a couple of them on the marketplace. And I probably missed out on a CR-V because it was a great deal. And, one of the things that my wife wanted to make sure that it did not have was, anybody that, had pets or that smoked in the vehicle, because once you have that smell, you just can't get it out no matter what. And I kind of agreed with her. And these people that were selling the CR-V, no, it was either a RAV4 or CR-V, those people that were selling that, I think they misunderstood what I was asking, and they put no, it's not a non-smoking vehicle. And what they really meant is, no, we don't smoke, we don't have any pets. So I didn't even go see that, and that actually sold that day. So I missed out on that. And then we had somebody post something over the weekend or close to the weekend. It was like two vehicles. This one guy was selling this Tundra at $5,000. Well, I couldn't. I didn't even have an opportunity to buy it because somebody, claimed it right away, and that deal was pulled off the market. And then there were some other ones that I totally missed out on. Like there was a Camry that somebody was selling, privately owned, very well taken care of, and it was further away than I wanted to go. It was in Yulee, I think, and she actually said there's several people coming today to look at it. She said I got somebody at 10, and if you want, you can come at 9 and beat them to it. Well, because of my situation with my son and my wife, I had no way of doing that to where I could get there on time. I probably could have, but I just figured, well, I'll take my chances. Well, that next person, that 10 o'clock person, bought the car because it must have been that great of a deal. So what I'm saying is, if you're on the Facebook Marketplace and you're trying to find a good quality vehicle that is sold by a true private seller, not all these dealers that are out there selling their vehicles, I don't necessarily trust the dealers because I don't know where they get these vehicles from, and they know nothing about the history usually. So they're either buying them from banks, they're buying them from the auctions, and I just don't trust that. So I'm trying to find a real, true, honest private seller with a good quality vehicle that doesn't have hundreds of thousands of miles on it. And that's the other thing. The vehicles that are being posted are usually way up there in mileage. I'm okay with 100,000, somewhere 100,000, 150,000 range if it's a Toyota, something that I know is as long as it's taken care of, well maintained, they'll last and last and last. So the high mileage doesn't really scare me with those. But when they start getting in the 200,000 range and on up there, you don't know how well they've taken care of the cars. And there's so many of those that are posted, and they seemingly are great deals, usually $4,000 to $5,000 or less. But do you want to take a chance on that? And the other thing that I've noticed is that, the pictures look good usually on screen, and sometimes they'll post pictures that they're kind of blurry, they're just not very well taken, and so you're always skeptical of those. But even the best of pictures, when I go to actually see the vehicle, it's not quite measuring up to the pictures that I saw on the screen. And so that's also a struggle. Yeah. And especially one one RAV4 that I took a look at, I asked them, hey, are you willing to, be flexible on the price? And, she said, well, I can come down to such and such. And I said, okay, I'll go take a look at it. And this person has posted this, and it's been posted on several different times. Like they posted the listings at $6,500, I think it was, or 68, something like that. And it doesn't seem like they're getting many hits because they haven't adjusted the price. It's been on there for well over a month, but they'll post it, they'll take it down, they'll put up a new posting, a new listing. And so I decided, well, let me go take a look at it. And it was in the Mandarin area, easy to get to from where I'm at, but not that easy, but it was doable. So I went to go look at it. And I got in, and my wife said, well, it looks like the seats are dark. And then, from the pictures, it looked like they were more gray. But no, when I got there, they were actually black. So I was hoping maybe the photography was just showing dark, and it was actually a lighter color. But it was a black exterior, black interior. And that's another thing that, not only does my wife not want black, but I don't want black either. So I got in there, started it up. It just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it was worth the price. It was kind of loud. I want to say it was a 2006 or 2008. And that was a short visit. I got out of the car. I said, I'm sorry, it's not what we're looking for. Thank you anyway. And I was off. And I looked at some other vehicles. I actually looked at a Lincoln Town Car, which is one of the ones that I really wanted to buy, but I've been disappointed in every one that I've looked at. And one of them was a beautiful, beautiful car. It was a Grand Marquis. It was a beautiful burgundy. The paint job, the whole exterior was like primo. I mean, it was like in mint condition. And the car had, I think, 115,000 miles on it. And it's been listed for quite a long time at $5,800. And so I finally decided, I was going to go take a look at it because it was in Fleming Island area. And I met the guy at the Walmart there, and really cool guy. He was actually he's older, he had long blonde hair, but you can tell, he was quite different. But he was apparently a rocker. He told me he played in a band, and he was retired, but he really wasn't motivated. He didn't have to sell. He didn't have to lower the price. But I took it on a test drive anyway, and everything on the interior looked really good. But when I was driving it, and it drove really well, it was, even though it seemed like a big car on the exterior, when I was inside driving it, it didn't feel like a big car, and it drove really nice. But I kept hearing a noise, like, how like when you're driving and you have maybe a door ajar and you can hear the road noise. Well, that's what I was hearing. And come to find out, when I stopped and got out and opened up the back door on the driver's side, and I noticed the window had like glue. The window was glued, and he said, "Oh yeah, that window doesn't work." And so, that made me think, okay, so what else are you not telling me about this vehicle? It looks really good, it runs good, but that was not something that I could have bought the vehicle and fixed that window. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But my wife did not want me to buy one of those vehicles anyway. She did not want the Grand Marquis, the Lincoln Town Car. And I was really looking for a Lincoln Town Car, like a really good mint condition. And I told the guy, I said, I've got to sell this deal on my wife, to my wife, and he said, "Good luck with that." So he kind of knew that this deal wasn't going to happen, and he wasn't willing to be flexible on the price. And I would have loved to have that vehicle. I mean, that was just a beautiful vehicle. Oddly enough, I'm looking for all of these vehicles, and I have a neighbor in my neighborhood, and I've noticed he has this car that, it looks like he had like a car cover laying on the ground, and it looked like a Lincoln Town Car. And I asked my wife, "Do you know anything about that?" And she says, "Oh yeah." She said it's a vehicle that has engine problems, and they're trying to figure out how to get rid of it or whatever. But it's not. Basically, she told me a fib. Because I went up to the other day and rang the doorbell when I had some time and I didn't have my son with me. It was on the way to work, and I asked him, "Hey, of course it was too early in the morning, so he ended up calling me back after I left my number, and he told me, he said, yeah, he said it was my dad's Lincoln Town Car, and it was in mint condition, like it had, I don't know, 30 something thousand or 60,000 miles on it, a really, really low number. It was garaged most of its life, except he had it out in the open. And he said, I've been trying to keep that car cover, but he said with the wind in this area, it keeps blowing off. And I said, so are you planning on selling it? And he says, as a matter of fact, he said yes. And he said, where did you see the ad? And I'm like, I didn't see the ad. I said, my wife told me about it, and she said it wasn't working. So that's why I was calling to inquire about it. And he said, oh no, he said it's in perfect condition. So she basically told me that because she did not want me to even try to buy that vehicle. But I asked him, well, how much are you asking? He says, $12,000. I'm like, oh, well, that's definitely out of my price range. And because I forget what year it was in the low 2000s, but I said, well, good luck trying to get that, because I haven't seen any of the vehicles in that range or of that model selling in that high-end range. But, he may get lucky. he may find somebody that's a collector that wants to buy one of those in mint condition. And I didn't get to see the interior, but I kind of looked at the interior through the glass, um, and it looked like it was going to be primo condition. So, and obviously, if he's asking that much money, he might get it. But he said I'll let you know if it's still sitting there. He said I didn't sell it. So you know he's going to try and do it. He said we're not that motivated to sell it. So he said if it sells, it sells. If not, then we'll somewhere down the line we'll lower it and see where we go from there. But so that was kind of disappointing, and disappointing with the Grand Marquis. And lately it's just been really difficult finding good vehicles. Hey Google, stop. It's been really tough finding good quality vehicles that are privately owned. So the problem is, because we have one vehicle and I'm working, when these vehicles come up, they're really hard to get to. When you go and you shop for a new car, you go into different lots and they're all there. Well, the problem is with the marketplace too, that makes it challenging. They come up all over the place. They're in different areas of town or out of town or in another city nearby. And it's not exactly convenient to go see these. And like I said, when I started doing this and going to see these, they were just disappointing when I got there. And so you try to ask as much information as you can before you go, to get them to, because a lot of times they'll post these pictures, or they don't give you a lot of pictures. They'll give you bad angles of the interior, or not really close up. Like if they go and take a picture of the car far away, there's a lot of little details that you can't see just from that picture. Because I've seen some that look good from a far off, but when I go see it in person, there's things that you just can't see from a far off picture. And I remember this one town car, it was actually here local. It looked good. They said, the interior looked good, but on one side of the car, the right rear fender panel, car panel near the back must have been sideswiped. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to buy that. But somebody did buy it. They sold it. I don't know what they got for it, but she was asking $3,000 for it. Even if she got $2,500 or $2,000, she got rid of it. So, and I've seen other deals lately that have just been things that have been around for a while. They're selling left and right, and then other deals are staying on there and not selling. So those are the ones, if they've been on there for a while, or you see them being reposted, they're not getting any kind of action. And either people go and see them and they don't like what they see, or maybe they're just asking too much. And I've been using my AI to do a lot of my research before I go and see these things. So I'll have it evaluate the post and let me know, am I in line, or is this person in line with what they're asking, with the condition that it's in? Is this a good buy? And most of the time, these sellers are asking the price range for what you would buy at a car lot, at a dealer. And hopefully as a private buyer, you want a deal where it's more in line with, you're eliminating all the dealer fees and all of that, or the markup from a dealer, and getting a more reasonable deal. Well, that's not happening now, not as much. I mean, if they can get it, because the demand for really good vehicles, like if you're selling a vehicle privately and you've maintained it well, you have records, Carfax, if you have a Carfax, that's a big selling feature, because that way it tells people exactly what's going on with the vehicle and they know the history. Whereas a lot of times you have no history from any of these people. Like they say, oh yeah, I just never kept any records. And I've been guilty of that too. But it's harder as a buyer to put your faith in something, especially if it has a lot of miles on it. Do you want to invest in something like that, not knowing the unknowns? So the old saying goes, do you really want to buy somebody else's problems? And a lot of times that's what happens when you're buying a used vehicle. And that's another reason why a lot of people like to buy certified pre-owned vehicles from dealers, because they know that, well, hopefully the dealer checked it out and can certify that it's in really good condition, and they give you usually, I think, a warranty for a certain period of time that it is what it says they say it is. I mean, it's in that really good condition. And also when you're buying vehicles from like these smaller dealers that are everywhere, and even the ones that don't even have a physical presence, like there's people that are selling vehicles that have a wholesale buyer's license or a retailer license, and they're buying these vehicles in probably bad condition, fixing them up and cleaning them up and making them look new. So these vehicles have been through the ringer, and you don't know it, because when you buy it, it looks beautiful. And so you can be deceived that you're buying a vehicle that looks to be very well taken care of, but it was terribly taken care of and abused from the previous owner, that you don't have any idea who that was. Or are you buying a flood damaged vehicle? You don't know that either. And so that's one of the reasons why I was trying to find a genuine private owner that hopefully was an older person to me, because they tend to take better care of their vehicles. They like to have it serviced properly at the dealer. And those are so hard to find. And like I said, usually when you find them, they get snapped up very, very quickly. And you got to, and it's to the point where now you can't really haggle with the people, because they know they got all these other people lined up. So if you this is what usually happens. Oh, I've got 2 or 3 other people that want to see this vehicle. And so, to make a long story short, I actually found a vehicle. I finally found one, but I don't have it in my hands yet. So if you want to see what I ended up with, and it's going to blow your mind, because I've looked at all these different vehicles, and I've kind of opened my mind up. I started looking at the like the Lincolns, the town cars, the Grand Marquis. I looked at RAV4, CRVs, Toyota Corollas, Toyota Camrys. Oh, I missed out on a really good deal on a Corolla that I just didn't bother to follow up on, and that sold. And multiple Camrys that ended up selling. And so I had a Camry before my Prius, and I thought, I would go back to the Camry because it's known to be a good, reliable vehicle. And if it's well maintained and you buy a good year, not a year that's plagued with problems. And so that's the other thing you got to be on the lookout for. You got to do your research and make sure you buy the years that don't have all the problems. And this is what's happening is I'm starting to see all these listings with problem year vehicles. So they're selling them for a reason. And that's the other thing. Try to find out why they're selling and try to get to the bottom of really why they're selling, and not just some BS story. But I did find a vehicle, and if you want to see what I ended up with, and like I said, it's going to blow your mind when you see what I got, because it's nothing what I had planned on buying. And I will say I don't know if I got a good deal on it or not, because it's in high demand. This is another one that a lot of people had been inquiring about, and she had this one other guy that was constantly harassing her, asking her multiple questions about this, that, and the other. Like he was asking about pets, about non-smoking, and he was very interested in seeing the vehicle. And as it so happened, I actually beat him I was the first person to see the vehicle. And this vehicle is owned by an elderly couple. They had multiple other vehicles, and this one was garage kept. And how I know truly it was garage kept, because when I got there, it was in the garage. It had a place where it was being kept. And they actually have 3 vehicles. So they have a big vehicle to pull their boat, and they have a a Chrysler minivan that they just bought not long ago, and the guy's wife, she wasn't even there when I actually saw this vehicle. She was at their cabin in Georgia, and apparently she has a Lincoln. So they didn't need this fourth vehicle, and so that's the reason why they were getting rid of it. And so they kept up on their maintenance, and they've really taken good care of it. And when I saw it, the pictures looked as good. I mean, the pictures that they posted on Facebook was as good in real life and even better than what I saw in the pictures. And that's the reason why I went with this one, even though it wasn't initially what I wanted or expected. And I didn't think my wife was going to go for this, because really she wanted me to find a vehicle for her. And that is something that I'm going to still have to do, because now she wants me to sell the Highlander and find her a different vehicle. So even after I purchased this vehicle, I still got to do the same thing and try to find her another vehicle. So, but this one I'm going to be patient with, because I don't have to be as in an urgent situation to try and do that. So if you want to see and find out what I ended up with, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell and make sure you get notified whenever I upload my next video. And be sure to watch this series of other videos that will tell you this whole history if you haven't already seen, how it all started. But your mind is going to be blown when you see what I got. And I'm going to go into detail and show you and tell you all about this vehicle. And I've never had one of these before, at least this particular series. So I appreciate you watching this far, but this is my latest update. And I hope you enjoyed this whole saga of when my Prius died. This is what happened. So I miss my Prius, but I'm ready for the next journey in the car buying process. Thanks again for watching, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.